Okay, let's start today's class. See, as I told you before, so the intention of this class, see, I can give you current affairs, so can pick from the, I can give a good notes for you guys, but that is not the only intention. To provide notes, at the same time, we also provide you the analytical perspective, the thinking perspective. Okay, so I brought this topic majorly to understand how you are preparing for the current affairs. So how you guys are thinking. Okay. So this is a pretty good topic that was running in this week, nano urea. Of course, the past week also. So what is this nano urea?
It's a liquid type of urea.
Okay. So what are the points that you want to write for the nano urea? So what do you have to think first? If I ask you to make a fertilizer, what are you guys going to do? So you are making a fertilizer. So what you what you look for in a fertilizer? So how you want it to be?
Ratio should be maintained. NPK ratio should be maintained in the liquid.
Okay. Okay. Simple. More simplistic way. Okay.
Which is less harm to environment.
Okay. Environmental uses. Okay. Good.
More productive.
So reducing the environmental pollution.
Less price and more utilization.
Okay. I can say it will be giving the more for increasing the farmers'
Yes.
income. Please tell. Please.
Less reducing yield.
Yes, the first one. If I want to make a fertilizer, I want to increase the crop productivity. Right? So if I'm making a fertilizer, I want to increase the crop productivity. Not only increase the crop productivity, I want to take care of the environment also, because long term, in a sustainable way, we need a good environment. So we want to reduce the environmental pollution due to the fertilizer. So altogether, we want to increase the farmers' income. Next.
Less wastage.
Okay, that is all comes under farmers' income, because less wastage. So I won't buy more.
I mean evaporation.
That will also come under the productivity, more productivity. So if I'm using less fertilizer and I'm getting more productivity, so the efficiency of the fertilizer will be increasing. Next,
Then cost.
subsidy.
Less cost.
So government is providing subsidy for the nitrogen. So we want to reduce the subsidy bill. So we want to reduce our import bill, because most of the urea that we use, not most, more than around 90,000. So we are importing that. See, all these points, most of the students will, even the 10th class student can say, increase in the crop productivity, farmers' income, environmental pollution. So, but what makes you different? As I told you before, what you have to do, you have to give weightage to these points. Whenever you are arguing something, you have to provide a substantial evidence for it. So, when I'm saying increasing in farmers' income, or giving a productivity, how it is giving a productivity? What I'm trying to tell you is, you know the topic. Even without reading the nano urea, if I ask you what type of fertilizer you want for your plants, you can say the points. So what generally we think is, okay, I have to read from the newspaper, then only I can write an answer. No, we know most of the points. We just have to think, and the most important one that we want from the newspaper is, we want to take that argument to provide substantial evidence for our arguments. Okay, we'll see each one of it now. So as you know pretty clearly, I'm going a little faster because you know this topic pretty well. So just we'll seeing it from an analytical perspective. Okay. So what is a nano urea or liquid nano urea? It is so liquid which contains a nanoparticles of urea. It was developed by Indian Farmers and Fertilizers Cooperative. It is one of the biggest one in India. Not only India, the Asia, and in fact the some of the world. It's the biggest cooperative. Okay, and then so we know this. It was first liquid nano urea plant in Gujarat. So what are the advantages of this liquid nano urea? As we have already discussed, it reduces the country's subsidy bill. So how it reduces the subsidy bill? I have to give evidence. because it was even said by our financial minister. So how it is helping the our subsidy bill. So 45 kgs of urea granules, which cost us around 3,000 rupees, but the government will give them to the farmers for 240 rupees. So the rest of the amount, 3,000 minus 240, so the rest of the amount will be borne by the government. The government will take this as a, so the burden will go to government, so obviously our fiscal deficit will increase. See how we are connecting. So our fiscal deficit will increase as such, so which is not good for our inflation part. So coming back, so this 45 kgs, 3,000 rupees, whereas this will available for 242 rupees. So 242, 42 doesn't matter, so all same price. See, another important thing that I want you to learn from the day one is concising the topic. In the examinations, we have brought you a content of 6 pages or 5 pages on a topic. In examination, you won't find the time or the space to write the whole answers. So you have to reduce it. So you will say reducing the country subsidy bill. So whereas the traditional urea bill available at 3,000, so which was given by the government in the 240 rupees. So the rest will be a subsidy which was borne by the central government. So you have to write in a concise way. Okay. So we also know import bill. So it was almost equal to 40,000 crores. Is that okay? I'm going this topic even faster. There's nothing much need to be explained. So I chose that topic just to bring confidence in you. Why? Because most of the topics, if it is an education or poverty or hunger, or health, most of the topics are general topics which we know, which we can generate points on our own. Okay? Just we need that background or the support or substantial evidence from the newspapers. We have already that thinking. We just have to realize that. Okay? Coming back. So increasing the productivity. How this increases the productivity? Because it is a nanoparticles. So it will occupy the surface area. The surface area on the plants will increase. So I'll tell you this. So we'll have a plant. So the roots of this plant will have a bacteria, the soil bacteria majorly, will help these roots to convert the atmospheric nitrogen or the nitrogen which was there in urea to make protein. Plants needs protein. So who will make this protein? So especially majorly these roots with the help of this soil bacteria. So they will convert, these roots will convert the atmospheric nitrogen or any nitrogen that was there in the fertilizers like urea. So they will take this nitrogen and convert them into protein. So now I am using this traditional urea. So where will I will mix that in the water and I will throw on the roots. Majorly it will be on the roots or will spray. So what will happen? So only majorly roots will participate in the making this protein or converting this or taking this nitrogen and converting it into protein. Only roots does. But when we are having this nanoparticles, so the surface area will increase. It is even observed by the stomata and pores on the epidermis of the leaves. So even the flowers or the leaves, all these things will absorb that nitrogen. See, what is the general belief is, majorly these roots will help for making the protein. At the same time, other parts of the plant, like leaves or the stem, they also have the capacity to convert or to take the nitrogen and convert that into protein. Not only roots, other parts of the plant have that capacity. So now, even when this is falling on the leaves, so the efficiency increased. As such, the productivity increased. Are you getting what I'm saying? So that is one of the argument that was given supporters of the nano urea, because it was observed even by the stomata and pores on the leaves. Okay, so which will make it more. So now when I'm spraying, randomly I'm spraying, or on the fields I'm or using this traditional urea. So what will happen? Along with the plants, there are weeds. There will be weeds developing. It will go to the soil. It will, when you're spraying, it will go to the air. So, and also to the water. So all types of pollution are occurring during the urea. But when this is nano urea versus minute particles, so most of them are used by the plants itself. That is the argument. Most of it was used by the plant itself. In one form or the other form, the parts of the plants are only using this urea. So thus it reduces the pollution. So one is surface area is more. So all the parts of the plants are using this urea to make nitrogen and to make the protein that is needed for the growth of the plant. And also it reduces the soil, water and air pollution. Because there is very less chance of it getting on and distributed on the soil. Okay. Next, how it increases the farmer's income? So have you been to these villages and have you seen this urea granules, like sabudana size, it will be less than that little. So they used to carry all this from one house to other and they have to carry to the village, to the farms. So if you take in that way, so the storage is reduced. I just have to carry one bottle to the storage, and if I want to think central government, I have to send a huge bags of urea and distribute it to all over the country. Transportation, the storage capacity, everything is a burden on the central government. Now it got reduced, not only for the farmers and also for the government. Researchers showed that the productivity increases by 8%. We'll come to that research, how that research took place, what are that is later issue. For now, advantages. So it is increasing the productivity by 8%. So that means around 5 to 10,000 per hectare that will be saved for the farmers. Okay. So it is very simple. So here the efficacy is 80%, whereas the conventional urea, the traditional one, the efficacy is 30 to 40. See, no one will listen to you, and if you say it increases the crop productivity, you have to provide the data. But you have to provide this data in a concise manner, one line or two lines. This where the language comes. Here where you have to read the newspaper to make it in a concise way. Am I being fast? Able to follow, right? Okay. So now, as we have already discussed, I explained you. So how it is better than conventional urea? So plants, this is the one which I explained. Plants need nitrogen to make protein. In examination, you no need to write this. You won't find time. This is explanation part. No one is going to ask you this. I brought you just, you don't need to refer another source or anything. So everything regarding nano urea will be in this slide, in this PPT. So for that purpose only I brought this here. Just have to say this one. In the examination, you have to skip all these things and you have to say, have a lot more surface area. Nano urea got lot more surface area relative to their volume compared with the millimeter size grains of urea. How and why all these things? Because of these reasons. Okay. Now, the issues. What are the issues that we have here majorly? If we want to test a fertilizer, so we have to check that for 3 seasons. So, but just check it only for 2 seasons. They said we checked it for 2 seasons and for almost all the varieties of the crops and all over in the different agroclimatic zones. Different agroclimatic zones. You know that term, right? Agroclimatic zones. So it was different for different areas. Suppose if you take this Anantapur and upper region of Tamil Nadu, they have which monsoon? Which monsoon do they have? No. Finished geography? Monsoons? No. Okay. Then my mistake. See, what happens is, so the monsoon which we get, it will go from here to, it will come all over to the Australia from the region and will go here. One branch will grow here, one will go here, one will go like this. And after reaching here, so it will turn this side and this also will join. So here we have a depression, low pressure, just listen. So these are the winds, major streams that will go across and will come here. So here in this region also will have the rains. So they will hit the hills over here and turn around. That is how the monsoon happens. But what happens here is Anantapur, northern part of Tamil Nadu region, Tirupati, these regions, especially this area, what we have here is Western Ghats. So this Western Ghats obstruct the rain from falling into this region. So what happens? So see, now the winds are going here because there is low pressure here. Now they are going here. Next season, what happens by October and November? Low pressure will be in the southern hemisphere. So now they will retrieve. Now they will come back. So now what happens, especially majorly. So now these rains will hit this region. So that is why now if you go after October, November, now Tirupati or if you are going to Tirupati, then you will observe. So they will be sowing seeds or they will ploughing their seeds in the October region, October period. The sowing period is different. So what I am trying to tell you here is different regions have different zones, agroclimatic zones. So depending upon the rainfall, depending upon the temperatures, okay, depending upon the soil. Okay, anyways, coming back. See, that's what I'm telling you. If you learn UPSC, wherever you go to Tirupati, you'll see that on the train, you'll see this, okay, this is a sowing time for them on the harvest season. If you go to the northern India, for them it will be in the January and February, we have a harvesting season. That is how things change. Okay, anyways, so where were we? Yeah. So they have to test for 3 seasons, and they also have to test over a range of crops they have to test, and different regions they have to test. So they claimed they did it for only 2 seasons. So instead of three seasons, they made it only for the 2. They fast tracked the. So many questions, especially the scientists and the farmers NGOs. So or you can say farmers pressure groups, okay, or the farmers interest groups, different both are. So they majorly say, what is the hurry? Why do you want to make this fast track the process? It will have an adverse effects. So that is one issue that was going on. So other thing is, so when we using this urea, when we sow the seeds, initial time they use nitrogen. Urea they use for 2 times. They use the urea 2 times majorly. One, when they sow the seeds, so when they are germinating, at that time they will put the urea to the fields. And second time, when they have the plants and flowering time, especially if you take the cotton or any other things, flowering time when they have the plants and it's growing, and second time they will use it again. So what they're saying is, the packaged urea is still necessary during the initial stage. In the initial stage, what are the advantages they are claiming till now? What I explained you? Nanoparticles, they will settle on the leaves, they will settle on the stems, so it will be very helpful. It won't be in the air, the plant will take off all of the urea, not just on the roots. When there is no roots, it is just germinating. So how this nano urea is going to be helpful? So they are saying we can't totally get rid of traditional urea. We may have to be used it in a initial stage as basal nitrogen of crop development. So the nano urea could be useful once the plant grew, after which the product could be sprayed on its leaves. That is second stage. So they are claiming, the scientists are claiming, in the initial stages we still need traditional urea. Okay. So anyways, they are claiming that when we mix it in the water, it will take the lowest concentration. Okay. So those are the issues. So another issue is doubts on the efficacy. While when I am mixing it in the water, it is already reaching its lowest version. So how the more smaller ones, more nanoparticles, how they are going to reach the plants? So there is still doubts on efficacy. Urea is highly water soluble. It reaches the lowest form of concentration when observed. So how nanoparticles can improve the nitrogen uptake efficiency by being even more smaller? Already took the lowest form of concentration. So how this is being even smaller, how it is going to be more helpful. So that is another doubt among the scientists. So we have to see how the use is going to be further. Okay. So what we have seen now, what is nano urea? Who gave that urea? Who is the one who is producing it? It's a farmers cooperative society. And then we have seen the advantages. Now you can write advantages because you know it already. You just have to realize that. Okay. And then how we are still depending upon the conventional urea, how we have to still depend on it, and what are the issues in the nano urea. Okay. So how to solve this? There are issues. One, the time should save, and the other, the farmers, NGOs, all these people will make the research and they have to produce the reports to the government. See, earlier before 1991, it's just the government. Now we are in a governance era. What's the difference between a government and governance? See, earlier we used to say government, now we'll say it's governance. Most of the decisions before 1991, before liberalization, it will be taken by governments. The central or the state, local, the local is not good, we don't have much amendments to that. So the government will take the decisions in policy making or in the policy implementation. Not just making, we have to implement that policy. And after implementing, we have to monitor that, how it is working, whether the policy implementation is going in the right way or not. Everything will be overlooked by, supervised by governments. But in the governance era, government, private, civil society. The civil society will include pressure groups, NGOs, interest groups. All these will come. Civil society. All this will look after the government policies, not just government alone. I'll give an example. Midday meal scheme. Midday meal scheme. It was initiated by government. Now, so what is the role of civil society? Do you know in most of the villages, the civil society, the few of the NGOs, they'll go to the villages and they'll check what is the teacher's attendance, how many students are attending, what is the meal they are going to give. So they will inspect. So that is done by this civil society, NGOs. And when we are making policies, nowadays what the government will do, it will form a policy and it will have to put it on a website, and the other NGOs or the pressure groups who are interested in that policy, like women NGOs, they will look into the children NGOs, will look into children policies. So they'll look into the policies and they'll give an opinions and suggestions, and even they also make, sometimes they'll pressurize the government to put that components which they feel better into the policies. See, there are two types of NGOs. Passive NGOs, active NGOs. Passive NGOs means, okay, I'll go and donate the food, I'll take 30 children, I'll sponsor their education. Okay, or we'll collect the food from here and we'll give it to the other. Majorly, such type of things were passive NGOs. So we have active NGOs. These active NGOs will participate in the policy advocacy, policy making, policy implementation, and also monitoring. So, ma'am, where is this policy implementation? How they will implement NGOs, especially in the very remote areas, like tribal areas, or where rather than a government instruments are going, it's the best the NGOs will implement the policies. Very rare it will happen, but most very remote areas it will happen. Anyways, we are deviating from the topic. I just want you to understand what is governance and the NGOs. Anyways, the things changed. We have almost 400 NGOs. For one NGO for every 400 people in India, we have an NGO. So here, that is a nano urea. Any doubts? Okay, let's take the topic. Next we have Hyderabad Liberation Day. I brought this topic majorly because it will be helpful for us in groups and also for the civil services, integration of states. So Hyderabad Liberation Day. So what was it? September 17th, maybe we are going to celebrate it further. So September 17th as a Telangana National Unity Day. See, I'll go directly to the history of it. Okay, as I told you, I just dropped it on the slide so that all the content for you no need to refer to other books at one place. Or I'll skip to the only explanation part. So it is a national unity day. It was mainly to celebrate what are the sacrifices of the people that took place during the period of Hyderabad formation into the Telangana region. So how the integration of the Hyderabad state into the Indian Union, that is majorly here. So we'll see this. So on September 17, 1948, after more than 1 year, so Hyderabad was integrated into the Indian Union. So it's the operation that they used it is Operation Polo. We'll see that. So history. So Hyderabad state. So this is the Hyderabad state. It contains the present Telangana region, total Telangana region, some parts of Maharashtra and some parts of Karnataka. This is the Hyderabad state, the largest princely state in India at the time. Among the princely states, it is the largest one. So largest state, and it is economically viable because it got the Godavari, it got the Krishna. So it economically, food wise, it is stable. But what is the major disadvantage is it doesn't have any coastal line. So to reach to the other countries or to the other areas, they have to depend on Indian Union at that time. They have to depend on India. So it was self-sufficient with food, cotton, because Maharashtra, Telangana region, we have, what soil is in Maharashtra?
Black soil.
Black cotton soil, we have it in Maharashtra region. Why? Yes, because of Deccan Plateau. So obviously we have coal. Coal, where we have coal? Yes. So they have food, cotton, coal, but they have to depend on petroleum and salt for the India. So anyways, to some extent they were economically viable. And next, so as I told you, it consists of some districts of Maharashtra and Karnataka and total entire state of present Telangana. They will come under the Hyderabad state. So it was a Hindu majority area, but the administration and the king were Muslims. So the Nizam was Usman Ali Khan, and so he was one of the richest in the world at the time. One of the richest. So later on he lost it to most of the personal wealth anyways. So and his divan. So Qasim is a communal man. We'll see what is this communal aspect did to the Hyderabad state. So most of the decisions of Nizam will are influenced by Qasim. So he will influence the decisions of Nizam. He is very trustworthy for the Nizam. So as we know, he was a communal man. So he don't want to keep the Nizam kingdom independent. He don't want to join with the Indian Union. At that time, especially, India was considered as Indian National Congress. And they used to have that opinion, Muslim League works for the Muslims and Indian National Congress works for the Hindus. So even though that is not true, we'll see that part in history anyways. So he wanted to keep Nizam's, or the Hyderabad state, independent. So what he did majorly, he started an organization known as Itihad-ul-Musalman. He started this organization. And the paramilitary wing, the famously known as, so they were Razakars. So he even threatened to join Pakistan if India uses. So initially what happened, British said when they were leaving India and when they were going to give independence to India, they said princely states, either they can join Pakistan or either they can join India or they can join to the British. They can still be under the British. That is what initially they told. The plans changed each and every time anyways. So later they said they cannot be under British. So either they have to join Pakistan or the Indian Union. Later on, with the help of Mountbatten, so Mountbatten had a little vision. Of course, that vision lies with the VP Menon. We'll see him later. See, he was an ICS officer, Indian Civil Service. At the time, not IAS, it's ICS. So Menon was working under the Mountbatten. He's an officer under Mountbatten. He said, sir, if you don't want We don't want the further India dying, the people, the next generation of India dying in a communal rights. Don't divide India. Like, at least make them into two unions. Don't give independence to them. Imagine. He said, don't give independence to them. These are princely states. Now I have to make a security or the policies for the India, central government. So how can I do that? Now I have to, Indian Union, state governments, still we are fighting for the river waters and everything. So think about the princely states. If the princely states are becoming independent and now they did join Pakistan or the Indian Union. So more chaos. So the future generation of India depends upon your decisions, sir. So don't balkanize the India. So at that time, so they said Pakistan or India, and they ruled out Hyderabad joining the Pakistan. Later on, it was ruled out. So, anyways, coming back. So this is where we'll see that it will come under before independence. This part we are seeing after independence. So he even threatened that they will join Pakistan if India uses forces. In this time, the three major political developments happened in the Hyderabad state. First one is Rajakars. They did atrocities against national leaders. By 1947, what happened? Indian freedom struggle is not going only in Madras presidencies or Bombay presidencies or not just in British India. The nationalist leaders were developed in the princely states also. People in the princely states are also fighting for independence. They even want to come out of their oppression by these princely states or the kings or the rajas. Even they want to enjoy the democracy. They want universal adult franchise. So even in the princely states, there were protests that were going in the support of Indian freedom struggle, especially for the Indian National Congress. It spread to the remote corners of the India. So they even went into the princely states and they started spreading the ideas of democracy in the princely states. Initially, princely states supported British, 1857 and even much later on also. But slowly by 1947, the people of the princely states also want to join India or enjoy the democracy. Okay, anyways. So here what happened? These people started killing these nationalist leaders, especially Hindus. How many of you seen this movies like what is that Nandachana movie? Oh, that recent one where Rajana. So there will be feudal lords, the lady, Jamindars, Doras and everyone. So the Dora and everyone, they want to get hold of that land. They are feudal lords. Feudal lords, we will talk in history about it. Anyways, so there will be a king, people. Between king and people, there is section of people who will, the king depend upon these people for ruling. And these people will depend upon these people for money and everything. Tax paying. So they will pay here to the feudal lords. And these feudal lords, every time they have to go and give offerings to the Nizam or anyone. We'll see that in the history, ancient history onwards, so these feudal lords develop. Anyways, so here, if you take an example, here Nizam. Here, people. So in between, we'll have this Dora, the feudal lords. So these feudal lords were supporting these Rajakars. Why they weren't supporting these Rajakars? Because if they're not crubbing these nationalist leaders, so they have to lose the land. They have to lose their power in those areas. Adult franchise, democracy, government will come, administration will take place towards the use of Dora. So even the major reason for the Rajakars to hold or to show the atrocities against the people, feudal lords. Next, that is one incident that is taking place, Rajakars. And next here, Prajamandal movement. So as I told you, the people of the princely states are also taking sides with the British India and they want to fight for the freedom. So now first, Andhra Mahasabha initially supported the movement. Later on, so communists came. Now, if you finish history, it would have been easy. See, there are many streams influencing the Indian freedom struggle. Everyone listen carefully. I'll tell you an example. Indian National Congress. It formed around 1885. So now what happened? The movement was going on. Indian freedom struggle. All people are fighting for freedom struggle. My opinion is different. Muslim League's opinion is different. It formed in 1906 only. Hindu Mahasabha opinion is different. Their ideology is different. What happened by 1917? 1917 what? See, Russian Revolution took place. The Marxist idea, the socialist and the communist ideas came into the world. So now what happened? We are not anyway, we are social beings. So now these socialist ideas, communist ideas are now having influence on Indian freedom struggle. Now we have Indian Socialist Party, Indian Communist Party. Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, they are socialists. They were influenced by the socialist ideas. Now, I'm a person who was influenced by socialist ideas. Now I became an INC president. So what will the agenda will be? Economic planning commission was set up. We'll fight for fundamental rights. Now we'll have peasant movements, peasant sabhas. What I'm trying to tell you is, if you see them from a broader perspective, don't see from, if you see here peasant movement, it will occur with a smaller one. But if you see from the logic perspective, okay, 1970, 1920s, 1920 we had a communist party of India. That was not in India, it was in Tashkent, it formed in Tashkent anyways. So, each and everything was slowly influencing the freedom struggle. Now when you see the peasant movements or the trade unions, oh, now by this time, they reached India. Bhagat Singh was influenced by these. Chandrasekhar Azad was influenced. They changed the name of it. Instead of HRA, they said HSRA, Hindustan Republic Association. Instead of it, they changed it to Hindustan Socialist Republic Association. Why? Because things came. What I'm trying to గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవడానికి కష్టపడాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. అదేదో పెద్ద వర్డ్ హిందుస్థాన్ హెచ్ఎస్ఆర్ అట్లా బై హార్ట్ చేస్తే యూ కెన్ నెవర్ రిమెంబర్ దట్. ఏం జరుగుతుందని చూస్తే కాంక్రిటైజ్ చేసుకుంటే దిస్ ఇస్ అ కాంక్రీట్ ఎలిమెంట్. దిస్ 1920s ఆఫ్ ద కమ్యూనిస్ట్. సో ఆటోమేటిక్గా థింగ్స్ విల్ ఫాల్ అరౌండ్ ఇట్. సో ఈ పాయింట్ గుర్తొస్తే పక్కన అన్ని గుర్తొచ్చేస్తాయి. ఇన్ ద ఎగ్జామ్ యూ కెన్ రిట్రీవ్ ద ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్. ఓకే, ఎనీవేస్ కమింగ్ బ్యాక్. సో వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్ నౌ? సో వీ వర్ అండర్ ద ఇన్ఫ్లుయెన్స్ ఆఫ్ communists. So especially these Razakas of the feudal lords, peasants was the worst conditions. Peasants were in the worst conditions. So they have to serve. There's the bonded labours or the forced labours. So there's famines were occurred in the Nizam rule. So communists had an influence. When I'm oppressed, so the people will join first communism only. So don't make me a left wing. So I'm still the central left. Anyways, so the peasant movements were going on in the Hyderabad state. Okay, so here we also have Hyderabad State Congress, which formed Satyagraha. So the person who influenced this integration, it was Swami Ramananda Tirtha. Even these people were brutally suppressed. It was Satyagraha, and these were Razakars. So definitely this movement was brutally suppressed, and people also have to take the refuge in the. So they went out of the Nizam Hyderabad state and went into this British India, at the time Indian Union. So next what happened? Communist insurgency. Due to influence of communist ideology from the coastal Andhra, communists started armed rebellion against the feudal leaders. First, Razakars were started. They started oppressing all the people who were in the started the Satyagraha under Hyderabad State Congress. Especially the leader was Ramananda Tirtha. So they want to integrate Hyderabad with the India. And other one was an armed rebellion was started under the influence of communists. So because as I told you, why people joined this armed rebellion? Because of feudalism, forced labor atrocities. So they don't have a choice other than join the armed rebellion and fight against the Razakars. So Telangana armed rebellion was started. So in Varangal, Karimnagar, Nalgonda, all these places. Then what happened? November 1947, Nizam signed a standstill agreement Nizam signed a standstill agreement with India. So saying this, majorly they said, whatever the administrative agreements we have with the crown, we will go with that. Administrative agreements. You'll get the term in the history. If I take that now, the whole session will go on the topic itself. For now, you just understand. 1947, Nizam signed a standstill agreement. Under that, what he has to do? He has to slowly form a representative government. What is representative government? That is, we have to, yes, democracy, election, some sort of, at least some sort of elections he has to get. So that slowly they can start the process of instrument of accession. So they can join Hyderabad state into Indian Union. But actually, so they realized he was just, Qasim was just buying the time. He was still keeping the Nizam independent. He was just buying the time by signing this standstill agreement, 1947. So Nizam's independence was supported by Pakistan. Because they want, so okay, Pakistan want to join Kashmir. And or independent, when Mountbatten said Pakistan, you cannot join Hyderabad, you cannot join Pakistan. So Nizam want to stay independent. Okay, they supported it because they can bargain over the, so Pakistan can bargain over Kashmir. So you can take Hyderabad state. So we'll take the Kashmir. So they thought so, and they even supported the Hyderabad state by providing weapons. So even after the agreement, still violence was going on. So the Razakars atrocities was going on. So see, when the atrocities was going on, what's the problem with Indian Union? It is having a spillover effects on the other states or other regions around the Hyderabad state. It's this side Bombay presidency, this side Madras presidencies, and now they were joined. There's a British India, now Indian Union. So they're having an effects on this side. So now I have to make an electoral role. People are coming and joining the Indian Union rather than joining the Hyderabad state. So it is having an effect. The violence is creating a rux in the Hyderabad state. That's the reason why. So we have to interfere. We don't have other option. So Indian launched an operation and army operation. This operation Polo and defeated the rebels in just 5 days. Naam ke baat hai, they didn't have much resistance. That's an Indian army which was trained under British India. So now here they have this Razakars who were developed, supported by the feudal lords. So 5 days. Hyderabad became an integral part of UPSC. May not give us this question. May give, but may not also. As I told you that before class. So why instead of Nalanda University they asked the comparison with the Takshila University. So what we have to do? We have to study around the total chapter integration of India. This integration of states, Junagadh, Kashmir, Hyderabad, how other states help join the Indian Union, how it formed. So please go through all of them. Don't neglect them. If you're writing these names or even the next ones, please go to that topic. Let's. The topic is education. That is especially primary education, school education. What do you want in a school education? What are the changes you want to bring? What are the components you want to bring? Don't see here. General we'll discuss. Whatever you say, that will be here itself.
Regular attendance.
Okay? Okay, you want to improve. Oh, your regular attendance. How you will bring regular attendance? So instead of using regular attendance, you can use the word gross enrollment ratio. These are the terms which we have to pick from the newspapers. Okay? Okay, good. So we want to increase the gross enrollment ratio, especially 100% in the primary schools. Okay, you want to give food. So that will help for the gross enrollment ratio. Okay, fine. It will increase the enrollment. The students will come or be attracted to schools. No, that's not the question. If you want to run the government school, how you want to do that? What do you want to prefer? Huh?
The curriculum.
Okay, good. So we want a good curriculum. So on the standards of the national level and international level, we want a curriculum. Okay, next.
Facilities to be provided.
Can I use the word infrastructure? We need infrastructure, libraries, laboratories, teachers, and also we need toilets, transportation.
Accessibility.
See, government schools cannot provide transportation, but we can say accessibility. Okay, then
Sports.
extracurricular activities. Okay, fine. What else? See from an policy making perspective. You'll tell most of the points in this policy.
The field one.
So free education. Okay. Have you been to Kendriya Vidyalayas for writing whenever Kendriya Vidyalayas? See, comparatively their infrastructure is better compared to the other government schools. See, when I'm making, so okay, we bought a school. Then,
Shelter.
so we have to assess. See, what is the major problem in India, especially coming to the schools? Will construct a school under like 2010, 2015 till that time, people used to construct schools. 27,000 new schools, 3,000 new schools. Why new schools? Okay. Who are going to maintain them? Every time they're going to develop new schools, but they're neglecting the old schools, so existing ones. So the policy of the education, especially towards the schools, changed later. They started focusing on the already existing schools. So for that, they want to develop the infrastructure, schools, curriculum, all these things, and also they have to give the funds, and also at the same time they have to monitor. See, every time, whenever we are looking for a policy making perspective, you have to see. Ela cheste program policy will help the people. And next perspective you have to see is policy implementation. How we have to implement the policy. And next, just not implementing. Someone have to look after it, monitor it. Simply sending money to the Anganwadis or some schools doesn't help. The people have to monitor it. So when you are seeing the policy, look from all these perspectives. Okay. So now we made a policy. We said National Education Policy. In 2020 we brought a National Education Policy, and in 2022 we changed 1-2 points. It's almost the same. So what is the policy here now? Based on the national education policies, we want to run the government schools. Okay, first thing. Now we made a policy. Now then, implementation. Who have to take care of that implementation? We'll see that for this point. And then, what are the components of the policies? So what are the components in the national education policies were also the part of this program. And monitoring. I have to assess. Every time we have to assess the school performance. Not only students, overall the school performance we have to make. For that we need a framework. On what basis I have to assess a school? For that we need a framework. Okay. So now whatever the points we discussed now I put it on headings and in a concise way. So by the time in 10 minutes we will learn this topic. So recently Government of India brought a policy, that is program PM Shri Schools. What is here? It is Schools for Rising India. The stream is SHRI, Shri. Modi's PR is very good. They'll make the names and everything is perfect. Okay, anyways, so PM Shri Schools. So what is this? What I told you in the last class? When we are seeing policies, first thing we have to see objective of it or the vision of it. What we are looking for. So what is the objective of it? We want to run model schools. Not all schools. Model schools for implementing the national education policies. We want few schools which implement national education policies. Only why few schools? Because they act as a model. So the other schools besides that will follow them as a model and will implement the same. That's the idea. How far that will happen later. Anyways, making a policy and sitting in the Delhi is different. Implementing it in the rural villages is different. So model schools for implementation of the national education policy. So the aim of the schemes is not majorly for the qualitative teaching, but also learning and cognitive development, as we have discussed. Sports. So instead of that, we'll say holistic and well-rounded individuals. So culture-wise, education-wise, so communications-wise, whatever needed for the skills needed for the 21st century, that need to be included in the schools. They have to give that knowledge. Okay, next. As I told you, whether it's a central scheme or a state scheme, we have to see that. So it is a centrally sponsored scheme. So center will select 14,500 schools across the country. So, and those schools will have to implement the national education policy. Next, settle what are the 14,500 schools? So, which schools they should be? You don't need to write all these things in the examination. You just have to think under PM3 schools. So, those states which want to implement the national education policy, those states have to apply first. They have to send, so these are the schools which I want in our state to come under this policy, to come under this program. That recommendation should be sent by the state. Education is a state list. Education is a state list. How center want to interfere in the education of primary schools? There's not any higher education. I don't want to create any aims. If I want to create an aims, medical universities, then center can interfere. It's a primary education, primary and secondary educations. So most of the states which are not under the central government, like power of central government, so they don't want the interference of central government into the education part. Anyways, we'll see that later. So first, how the schools were selected under this scheme. So the states will send the schools names or model schools which they want to come under the schemes, first thing. And also the schools themselves can apply online. So based on the criteria, whether they'll fall, so they have an expert committee for this. That committee will select the 14,500 schools. So especially from the 60 parameters that they developed. So those schools, many will argue. So when they were eligible for the program, when they are qualifying for the 60 parameters, why do you want to give funds for them again? That's another argument. So especially Kendriya Vidyalayas, Vidyalayas, all these things will come under this policy. And the one thing that we have to remember is 2 schools per block. Per block, you will select 2 schools. So what is this? So those states which want to follow national education policies, they have to send application for the model schools. The schools themselves can apply online, and then they have to follow the criteria of 60 parameters. They have to qualify for the 60 parameters, and then an expert committee will decide. And also, only 2 schools per block will be taken under this program. Now, what type of methods that we want to follow in a school? So there are 2 types of teaching: anthropology teaching and pedagogy teaching. Pedagogy is majorly, the old style of teaching is anthropology, where the teacher will come, they will study, they will give the notes. See, earlier, so my grandfather was a headmaster, so I have seen children used to shake like this when they want to talk to my grandfather. That is the type of teaching earlier they used to have. So now the cases changed. Now it is majorly the interactive ones, attentive ones. See how coolly you have sit in the class? No, it's different. Anyways, so the pedagogy is majorly to make you to understand the concepts and the deeper version of grasping the things. So you want to learn the concept as a whole, whether it is to using the digital methods, okay, e-learning. So we have to make the students understand the concepts. So it majorly students and teacher interaction that will have more play, and the teaching method of the class will majorly go around the student centric. At that time the teacher will tell, most of the people will grasp, some people won't. It doesn't matter, they'll go tuitions later on. So but nowadays what will happen? So they will have the strict numbers in the class majorly. So a teacher will have a concentration on each and every child. That will happen in private schools usually. So they'll take a restricted number for each and every student. They'll know how they're writing and everything. So that is pedagogy method. So we want to follow in those schools pedagogy way of teaching. See, don't use this pedagogy here itself when you're writing an essay on education or anywhere else. You can use these terms. That's why I explained it. So what it is, majorly to be more experimental, holistic, integrated, play-based. So it will be fun learning. So especially inquiry driven. So if you ask some questions in the curiosity way, you have to generate that curiosity. See, the science is all about questioning. So the teacher should be ready to answer them. Such type of inquisitive behavior should be developed among the students. Then only there will be scientists among us. So anyways, inquiry driven, discovery oriented, learning center, discussion based, flexible, enjoyable. The school should be in this way, especially government schools. Imagine. So now they have to give funds that is nearly 2 crores for each school, 2 crores for each school to development. So they will go directly through the direct benefits transfer to the school's account, and the principal and the local committee. Now, here local committee, who will come to this local committee? Again, as I told you, now the people will be there from government side, either the sarpanch or the Jilla Parishad person will be there, and NGOs will be there, government officers will be there. It's a committee. Now, it's not alone, an officer will not take care of that now. All will participate. Okay, anyways. So, they will send 2 crores to the school's account through direct benefit transfer, and the local committee and the principal will determine how to use the funds. Now, we have also seen that we need infrastructure. So, we have to be equipped with the lab, smart classrooms, libraries, sports equipment, so art and everything. So, now they are also talking about green schools, water conservation, like rainwater harvesting, water recycling, energy efficient infrastructure, such type of things. Okay, so that word green schools is little new, the term, so we can use it elsewhere. Now, as I told you earlier, now we are developing, send the school money, teachers, what they have to follow, national education policies. In the national education policy, we know what is the curriculum, books and everything. Now we have to assess the performance of the schools. So they have made a school quality assessment framework. So there will be key performance indicators. What are the indicators? If the school is performing very well, enrollment, learning progress, what is the outcome? Total outcome of a school with respect to the state and national averages. Linkage of school with the higher educational institutions, entrepreneurial. See, do you know how many have skill in Indian skill set other than the teaching? So, or you can say occasional education, another skill set. How many of you have another skill set? If not BTech degree, how are you going to study it? I assume most of you are BTech. Okay, skill set. What is it?
Fitness leader.
Okay. So okay.
I will train modeling.
Okay, great. Then see, we don't have skill sets other than studying anything. In South Korea, 96% have a skill development, whereas in India, only 4%. So that's why government has started many programs on skill development missions and many vocational education centers just to develop a skill. Okay, anyways, that is an important fact. You can take note of that if you want. South Korea has 96% of people have a skill, some sort of the skill, you can say. Whereas India is 4. How many of you wrote for every 400 people there is one NGO in India? How many of you wrote there is passive and active NGOs? You can use that in the paper to governance. So there is a topic called civil society.
NGO.
So you have to register that. That will take later. What are the laws for there? How the NGOs need to be accounted for the money they were giving. So what are the trustees under the Trustee Act? What it is? That's a different one. That is another topic completely. So we have to use this information whenever you get a good information, good facts, especially pick them straight away. So implementation. So what are the parameters they'll check whether the school is running on the way they envisaged or the way they visioned. So by checking their enrollment, learning outcomes, comparing them with the state and national averages. So we have to link with the higher education because the students knows, okay, if I want to study this is how I have to. Okay, like models, how the colleges are going to set. That type of, and also linking the students to the industrial ecosystem. Next. And this is the point which we can generally write. We also have to develop them or make them into sort of the consciousness of Bharat or the make them proud of our cultural heritage. This is other point. So besides school assessment, we also have to make a student assessment. So what is the issues here? What is the issues with the program? Education is a state subject. Especially states like Tamil Nadu are not interested in implementation of the national education policy. First. Second, having these 3 languages. So, and they said out of it 2 have to be native to India. The 3 languages policy of the national education policy. Because this program is using national education policy. That was also not interested to the most of the states. And next, mandatory school entry at 3 years. See, villages it won't be possible. In 3 years they won't send to schools. Or even urban level. So mandatory entry at school levels it will be difficult. Or practically is also not possible. And promotion of vocational courses at class 6 at the cost of formal education. So we have to see after certain like after finishing 10th, after finishing secondary and for the higher secondary then we can go for the vocational education. But class 6 many of the educationists are not preferring vocational course at the cost of formal education in class 6 itself. That was not liked by the educationalists. Next. So the option to exit schools in 10th with the option to re-enter in class 11th. Also we have that option at the time but we don't have that. So the people are thinking now. Anyways, next coming back, here more than 10 lakh government schools were there in the country. This was a statement by Arvind Kejriwal. So he said there are 10 lakh government schools in the country. Why only 14,500? Most of them are in the worst conditions. So that is another issue. See, the topics which I choose today majorly is first reason to bring confidence in you. But most of the points you know them. You just have to, what we can say, put in a nice word, rather than attendance, enrollment, gross enrollment ratio. So most of the things we know. It's education, we know it well. Infrastructure, facilities, infrastructure, green schools. Use these terms, most of the points we know. Just have to, okay, I know this. Before seeing any topic, first think what you know about this topic. And then add this. See, and I want to tell you what important point is. Most of the students what they do is, even for the optional or if I ask you to prepare for the topic over the civil society, they'll bring 4 sources or 5 sources. They'll keep around it. So now what you do? Point from this, point from that. So it will take huge time. After 2 days and 3 days, you will be stuck with the civil society itself. And after that, what happened? You will not finish it. You will not have knowledge about writing an answer for the 10 marker also for the civil society. You will end up like that. What you have to do, I'm not asking, don't read 4 materials, or that depends upon you. First, trust one subject, one material. So then, suppose, let's think, it's a topic on NGOs or civil society. The points were given on. Now I read another material. What the material will contain other than this? Let's think 5 points. Now I'll pick only those 5 points or 3 points and I'll write down here. Instead of 3. By the time what happened, I have a very good grip over civil society. If anyone asks, I'll write a question or answer on it. And if I come across any newspaper articles or anything, I'll pick the point and I'll write down here. Don't read too many things. First read one, get a grip over one subject, one book, very good control of it. And then if you see other books, you'll find hardly 3 points or 4 points. See, earlier now you have the facility of, institutes are preparing materials for you. Earlier we have to read a Yojana and everything. When I went, my seniors asked me to prepare notes on Yojana. I said I will help you for the main, so at the time I prepared, so it's fresher. Yojana, have you observed every time Yojana? With this thing. So I wrote 15 pages of Yojana. I prepared a notes. He said, instead of this, I have read that Yojana itself. I why 15 pages? Later on, after a year, I wrote it in 2 pages. It's a topic on health. It came to only 2 pages, this side and the other one. Why? Because I came to know what are the stupid points. See, you said many points now. Improve productivity. I don't have to write next time improve productivity. What I'll write? So how the 8% of the productivity is increased by Nano and Urea. That point I will write. Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? So the majorly this class is focused on to increase your confidence and how to read simpler topics in an easier way. Okay? So as I told you, 1 to 3 classes or 4 classes will revolve around the orientation of it. Set the orientation of how to prepare. Okay? Okay, Indo-Bangladesh relations, we'll take it in a faster way. So, we have already know, PM Hasina visited India because she got elections. Elections were coming to the Bangladesh. So, Hasina is always a supporter of India. So, she wanted to show that she resolved some issues with India and some benefits were brought to the Bangladesh to get her to get win in the elections again. Okay, so that is one of the reasons from her side, and want to resolve the many of the issues from coming years because of the COVID or because of other issues. So many things were struck in between the India and Bangladesh relations. Now we are going to solve this most of it. Guys, I'm not going to take this in detail. Please go through this topics because it's just a history. You don't need to learn or you don't have to write in your examination. I just gave you the notes. Okay. So we helped for the independence of Bangladesh in 1971. Indian Army helped it. So at the time it was Sheikh Hasina's father was the leader of it. So we helped them. We helped the rebels actually and fight with the Pakistani forces at the time. So and brought independence for the Bangladesh. So now we'll see economic relations. Few points I'll skip. They are the factual points which you have to go. I will discuss only the strategic importance. Okay, because we are left with less time. So we are the 4th largest destination of Bangladesh is the 4th largest destination for Indian exports. So these are the facts. Even during the COVID time, our bilateral relations were strong. Even at that time, our trade was in a good condition. So what India exports to Bangladesh? Cotton yarn. See this, Bangladesh is known for the textile industries. Why textile industries? Ma'am, when they are having very good, Brahmaputra was running in the Ganga was running over the country. See, when we are having a fertile and regenerating soil and that where the jute grows. Jute grows in West Bengal and Bangladesh. It's very popular and high quality jute over there. Cotton very less. Cotton really is a very good summer days also. Sunny days it needed. Even they grow, but they need a lot of it from India. Why Bangladesh tech? Well, when there is no cotton for them, how they are having very good textile industries? Cheap labor. Cheap labor is one of the major reasons. Okay, anyways. So we export raw cotton, non-retail pure cotton yarn and electricity. We will produce from our thermal plants, especially from the Jharkhand. We will distribute that electricity to Bangladesh. So India imports what we imports? Pure vegetable oils, non-knit men suits. Because they're textile, so non-knitted ones we will buy from them. We will sell raw cotton to them. And textile scraps. So this is one important point that you have to remember in the whole economic relations. One, even in the COVID relations, our trade is very good. We are our 4th largest. And next, comprehensive economic partnership. See, there are different levels of economic cooperation. Free trade agreement, basic level. And above that, we'll have comprehensive economic partnership agreement. So more, see, in the free trade agreement, tariffs will be low. In the economic, the partnership will be the next level. So on the custom duty, not just duties or the taxes levels. So in the partnership level, so where the industries can come together. So giving a permissions to the industries to set up in their own countries. So such type of economic partnership will develop over here. Now what is that? Besides everything, okay. So now Bangladesh will move from lowest, so this is less developing country now. So they are moving to a developed country by 2026. Bangladesh is going to be a developed country by 2026 and we are going to be a developed nation. We are developing, so we move to a developed nation. So that's the point here is when they are moving from this to this, so it will lose the benefits of being a less developed country. So what happened? South Asian agreement was there among the countries. The less developed countries, for the less developed countries, will give tariff less. So when the goods are coming from, the textiles are coming from Bangladesh, we won't import huge custom duties on them. Because it's a less developed country. But now when it moved to a developing country status, so those tariffs will be removed from it. It will not have the benefits. For that reason, they want to make a comprehensive economic partnership agreement with India. Why this agreement is important for Bangladesh? Because it is moving from less developed status to the developing status. So where the trading benefits, they will be eroded. For that reason, they want to make this agreement. So we may see this agreement written in the future visits. We didn't sign this yet. Negotiations were going on. Okay. Now, whatever international you take, especially neighbors, one thing that will come in between that is China. So we cannot never neglect the China. Even if you neglect Pakistan, that's okay. If it is an India-China match in the cricket, it is more serious than India-Pakistan from economic point of view. So our biggest enemy is not Pakistan, it's China. So sitting in front of the video recording, I'm officially saying that. Because see, we are having hydro wars with China over the Brahmaputra. We are having the land issues, water issues, string of pearls. So wherever we go, so there is an interference or the hand of China. Anyways, so here, so the major point in a crux I want to say is this: India and Bangladesh had an unfavorable trade balance because we are exporting raw cotton and we are getting less products will be exported from a small country. So we are exporting electricity. So balance of trade is towards India. But when compared to China, China has a huge balance of trade. So it is favorable towards China. What is balance of trade? There is the freshers scheme. Now exports, eco cost, Bangladesh has to give us more money for the trade. We'll give less money to the Bangladesh for buying these things. Simple versus చెప్పాలంటే balance of trade, ఎక్కువ విలువైన వస్తువులు మన దగ్గర నుంచి బంగ్లాదేశ్ తీసుకుంటుంది, మనం బంగ్లాదేశ్ నుంచి తీసుకోవట్లేదు. So balance is favorable to us. But the gap is more between Bangladesh and China. Bangladesh has more severe unfavorable trade balance with China compared to India. So what will happen with that? So I think the reason here is, see, we have already seen how the Pakistan is in debt crisis, economic crisis, how Sri Lanka is in economic crisis. If Bangladesh depends upon one single country like China, what will happen? So they can't depend on one country, it will lead to the debt trap. China can be going to the debt trap of China. So that's another reason where Bangladesh want to diversify their exports. So that's where we have to set it. That's where we have to fit in. Okay? So that's the point. The whole crux of it is they have favorable trade, more favorable trade towards China than to India. So these are the other factual data which you have to compare. So as I told, India is the 8th largest export destination for Bangladesh. China is the 15th largest. Okay? China is the top exporter to Bangladesh with 30% share, whereas India exports constitute 16% only. Okay, anyways, so what they want to do? Bangladesh want to reduce its debt with China or dependency with China. This is the only point you will find time and space to write in your answer sheet. Okay, we'll do one thing. Sorry guys, so we're out of time. So I'll do a short video on 15 to 18 minutes video on Indo Bangladesh, and we'll add it to the channel. You can see in the YouTube channel of VISHNU MAIS. Is it okay? So that we can discuss detailedly rather than go in a hurry. So I'll discuss detailedly. So by today or tomorrow or day after, you'll find the video on Indo Bangladesh on the channel. So not only that, where the important topics, especially the analytical topics, where it will take more time, where you have to refer so many books to make a notes of it, such type of analysis we are going to make in short videos. So whenever you are going on a bus or auto, it's just on board, you want just see something like a podcast, how people will listen to podcasts, in that way we want to make our videos, so that it will be helpful for you, other than just this 1 hour class. Whenever you want to read, just freebies, 10 minutes, Indo Bangladesh 10 minutes, so everything about it will be there in the 10 minutes, so it will be helpful for us. Okay, so I'll cover Indo Bangladesh in that channel, so please go through that. So is it beneficial for you guys? We want to take an opinion on that. So how people will listen to the podcast, right? So in that way, in a shorter way, suppose you're traveling in a bus or an auto, you just don't want to waste time. So then you can open it and just go listen to that. Okay? And notes in the same way, how the class is going on, the same way we'll have the notes in the slides itself. So in the exam time also, mains time and then. So Indo Bangladesh, even if you're writing for the next year and the next year, it's a constant topic. So if anything new one comes, we just have to add over it. That's why we are making important topics, especially for the mains. And later for films also we do that. Okay? Okay guys, I'm going to take a leave. I'm telling again, so this will be provided as a video. So please go through that. Don't keep it. అమ్మయ్య వీడియో వచ్చేసింది, ఇది ఎప్పుడు కావాలంటే అప్పుడు చూసుకోవచ్చు. ఇప్పుడైతే క్లాస్లో అయిపోయింది, ఎప్పుడు కావాలంటే సో డోంట్ pile up the things. Finish it off. Thank you. Now, any doubts? Any doubts? So you want it in any other way? ఇంకేమైనా యాడ్ చేయాలా కరెంట్ అఫైర్స్లో? ఎనీ డౌట్స్? ఇంకేమైనా కవర్ చేయాలా? All of you understand Bindu, right?
Yes.
We'll do a pedagogy method of teaching, so we can have an interactive session. At least tell me, what do you want from this class? See, I have set the expectations very right, pretty clear. This class is not for by heart. It is for developing the analytical skills. Okay? ఎక్కడ చదవచ్చు? ఇంకొక ఏదైనా బుక్ ఓపెన్ చేసేస్తే, నెట్ ఓపెన్ చేసేస్తే ప్రతి ఒక్కరు రాస్తారు ఆర్టికల్స్, నోట్స్ కూడా ఉంటుంది. బట్ అది మనం ఎన్నిసార్లు చదివితే గుర్తుంటుంది, ఎలా చదివితే గుర్తుంటుంది, కూర్చొని బై హార్ట్ చేస్తే గుర్తుంటుంది. That's where this class is. Okay, whoever wrote the answer, please get that to me.